This is Nan McKay, and I would like you to meet Ann Martin. She's a speaker, a trainer, a certified professional performance coach, and she is on a mission to empower women to carve out paths of meaningful success. After a 15-year stint practicing law in diverse environments, including the U.S. Navy, Carnegie Mellon University, and a national law firm, and experienced a paradigm shift. She realized that she was caught in a lifestyle rather than truly living her life. This prompted her to leave her legal career, reinvent herself as an award-winning sales leader with Mary Kay Cosmetics, and ultimately become a reinvention strategist. Now, Ann leverages her unique blend of legal, leadership, and entrepreneurial experiences to coach and teach people how to redefine success, how to explore new possibilities, and create lives filled with meaning. So welcome, Ann.
Thank you, Nan. It's exciting to be here.
Ann, can you tell us about the moment that you realized that you were living a lifestyle and not truly living your real life? And what was a catalyst for that realization?
Actually, it was Halloween, Nan. I was working in a big law firm, big national law firm, my dream job in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, something I had always wanted to do. And I had been there about a year and a half, and I typically worked 60 to 70-hour weeks. I had a live-in nanny taking care of my 8-year-old son, and my husband and I were like ships passing in the night. Basically, he had a high-powered career, I did. And so, the nanny basically took care of everything. She was awesome. Tonight, though, was Halloween. And I was coming home to take my son trick-or-treating. So I come flying in the door early at 6 o'clock. And I say to Lance, honey, are you ready to go trick-or-treating with me? And that little guy looked at me and he said, I don't want to go with you. I want to go with Mary Grace. And in that moment, my heart just sunk. See, Mary Grace was the live-in nanny. And I realized I had basically outsourced my parenting to her. And that was a big moment. It was very painful. And it started me on this process of reassessing my life. I mean, here I am in my dream job, but I'm losing my son. I'm living on the fringes of his life. I never took him to school. The nanny did. I wasn't there for after-school snacks. I wasn't there for most of the soccer games because I worked Saturdays. And I thought, wow, I might as well have a cat instead of a child. And so I really started some very painful assessments, Nan. What is this life I'm living? What is this success treadmill that I'm on to become a partner in a big law firm? Is it really worth it? Is there something else out there for me? And most importantly, is there a way that I can be part of my son's life and still have a meaningful, exciting career?
Well, what challenges did you face when you decided to leave that legal practice, and how did you overcome them?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I initially did not intend to leave the law. I started looking into part-time opportunities, but this was the early 90s. And as you know, hybrid work wasn't an option for women. Part-time work, especially with the type of law I did, high-powered business law, really wasn't an option. So those doors were really closing. I did not want to work full-time anymore, I had decided, but I wanted something challenging and, dare I say, fun? Dare I even say it? Well, I had been using these products, Mary Kay Cosmetics, for years, and my lady consultant would say, oh, how wonderful they are, blah, 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 blah. And like she said, and you really ought to consider looking into the business opportunity. And I kind of laughed it off. I almost was insulted, actually. And then one day I opened an article, Glamour magazine. It had an article about this woman, Gloria Mayfield Banks, Harvard MBA, who left a stressful, high-powered career to become a consultant. She was a top leader. I thought, oh my goodness, this attracts women of that caliber. I need to take a second look. And I did. And it was a bit of a journey. And I would say the challenges were first the huge step out of my comfort zone, Nan. I mean, oh my gosh, I worked in a cerebral centered world where people don't care how much you care. They care how much you know and how effectively you can advocate and negotiate. The Mary Kay world was very heart and people centered. And it attracted me so much, but I realized I needed a bit of an inner reinvention to really get more people oriented and people centered and really adopt more of the Mary Kay culture. So, it's kind of interesting. I was moving from the cerebral culture to this people centered culture. And I thought, how do I adapt? And I realized, let me start imitating the women who were my mentors, the models, the women who attracted me into this business. My sales director was an incredible woman. And when I'd find myself in a situation that was a little uncomfortable for me, I think, what would she do? Her name was Rena. What would Rena do in this situation? And that usually was the right path to take. Another challenge about moving from law to lipstick, as I call it, is the surprise and shock of a lot of my friends and family. And that you can only imagine. I hadn't told many of my legal colleagues. They heard the day I left the firm. But friends and family were initially kind of appalled. And then some of them understood, some of them never understood. And I realized my job is not to please them. My job is to live my life and focus on what's good for myself, my husband, and my son. And they were very, very supportive, especially my son. And then the third was financial, because I was leaving a very comfortable income to move into, number one, I had to make a small investment, but then basically start from scratch. And that's where my husband was incredibly supportive. We were able to dial back to basically his income for a while. We made changes. And fascinatingly enough, everything fell into place. So much so, Nan, that he wound up doing part-time consulting over and above his university job. That consulting led to him starting a company that spun out of Carnegie Mellon University. That became a company that was purchased by Boeing a couple of years ago that allowed us to buy our dream house. So I'm sitting here in my dream house in Half Moon Bay because of a decision I made over 20 years ago to listen to my heart, step out of my comfort zone, and do what was right for my family and myself.
That is so interesting. I think that financial leap is one of the hardest. I mean, it helps when you have a partner and you're not the sole breadwinner to do this, but still, you've got to be going from maybe 300,000 or so, maybe less when you're back in the 90s, but a high income to what zero really in the very beginning.
Yeah, virtually zero. And, one blessing was that we were living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the time. The cost of living wasn't as high as it is here in the Bay Area or on the West Coast. So that was a big blessing. But, it's amazing when you really want something, and my husband realized this would be best for our family. It's amazing what you can get rid of. I mean, we paid a lot for the nanny. And she wound up going to grad school and staying with us, living free and helping out with a little babysitting. So that was a win-win. We loved her dearly. We got rid of the condo in the mountains. And he sold his Porsche that he loved. And you know what? I mean, we do it all again because what we got was so much more. I mean, just in terms of the family and the way our son thrived was so much better.
I think sometimes we just are so afraid to take that leap because it is scary. I mean, you've got the financial certainly is huge. And then everything that you've been doing, you've been studying for, that you've been working at for all these years, to think about just making that leap almost probably felt like leaping off of a cliff, didn't it? A way
It did.
Brave to do it.
Yes, but then what really helped here is that I surrounded myself with supportive people. I joined NAWBO and the National Association of Women Business Owners, and as you know, they're incredibly supportive of women, and they were fascinated by my story. And I had a lot of great mentors and supporters there outside of the Mary Kay world, which was really, really great. So that helped. The other thing is I did it gradually. I did it over an 8-month period. I didn't just walk in one day and hand in a resignation. I couldn't do that. So and it meant really being gone from the house, 7 days a week, because I only had Sundays to work my business. So I do these product demonstrations or trainings on Sunday after church. And I remember my son saying, "Mommy, I never see you." And I said, "Honey, just hang on a little bit longer. Mommy will be with you a whole lot more. I'll be picking you up from school. I'll be able to have breakfast with you," because I used to leave the house before he got up. And he hung in there, and it all worked out beautifully. But it was challenging. But again, I always say to people, step by step, and yes, you may have to work harder. You're going to have a side hustle going while you're in your full-time job until you can work your way out of the full-time job. And, that's just the way it goes. And a lot of women that I brought into my organization, they didn't have the luxury of another income. So they had to work it so that, sometimes it was, a year, 2 or 3. Side job, part-time job, along with a full-time job, till they were comfortable enough to leave.
How old was your son at the time?
8.
At 8. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, how did your journey with Mary Kay shape your approach to entrepreneurship, to personal development, to leadership, any of those areas?
Well, as my husband often is fond of saying, and he used to say in public, "I wouldn't care if she made a dime. She's a much nicer person." So that kind of gives you an idea of what a stressed out, guilt-ridden person I was prior to taking that leap.
I think, and too, I'm just thinking in a attorney position, you've got billable hours, which
Yep.
really puts a lot of stress on, doesn't it?
It sure did. It sure did. Of course, I, being the overachiever, would always bill much more than the minimum. And at the cost of, my health, my family. But, that's who I was until I wasn't, until the Halloween, wake up call, as I call it. So I guess the thing, and this is what attracted me to the company, and this is what how I try to live my life now, Nan, and even when I work with clients, now that I'm no longer with Mary Kay. Mary Kay had a culture where she believed that we needed to live our priorities. Now, in her case, the mission of the company was faith first, family second, career third. And for someone who had lived her life career first, career second, and career third, that was a very novel thing. And so I learned that instead of designing my life around my career, I could start designing my career around my life, the life that I wanted to live.
That's really interesting. Can you you share some key lessons that you learned from your legal practice that were instrumental in your work now as a reinvention strategist?
I loved when you put that question in there because a lot of people think, how would law have to do with this? Interesting. I had a professor in law school who would always say, you have to take your clients as you find them. And what this basically means is we have to accept our clients with their idiosyncrasies and their personalities and the set of facts that they're bringing to us, and work with that set of facts, that set of circumstances for a winning outcome for them. In coaching, I apply that same mantra. I have to take my client as I find her. I cannot start projecting my assumptions, my beliefs, my worldview on that person. She is her own individual, unique person, and it's my job to, learn as much about her worldview, how she views the world, learn about what she really wants out of her life or her career, help her co-create with her a plan to move forward, and then call her out when she's sabotaging herself with, those wonderful limiting beliefs that we often drag around with us and the negative narratives. The other thing that I'd like to talk about relating to the law is really, and this I only realized about a year or so ago when I was preparing a presentation. You've heard the expression, become an advocate for yourself. That's all over. Well, I realized that if I could take one of my clients who's just has a mind full of limiting beliefs and negative narratives and fears running around and have her approach it like a lawyer, she could help dispel that. And here's what I mean. So I would say, okay, let's pretend we're preparing a case, and let's pretend that you have to anticipate what your inner doubter is saying. You want to look at the facts on which that inner doubter is basing all these negative stories. Write them down, not assumptions, not beliefs, not what you think anyone said, facts. What can that inner doubter prove in a court of law? So I shall write the facts down. And then I say, okay, now you're an advocate for yourself. Now let's look at the evidence that would help disprove those facts, that contradicts those facts. She'd write those down. And usually it would be on a piece of paper, with a line drawn down the middle. And I'd say, now take a look at both sets of evidence. Where is there a greater preponderance of the evidence? And inevitably, it's for the positive experiences, because so many of our limiting beliefs, including my own, are based on these assumptions about what others might think or projections, right? And so that is such a powerful exercise. And then what I say to her is, okay, let's edit your story. Edit the negative story with the positive facts, delete all the stuff for which there's no evidence. And, we're going to have a much more positive narrative to move forward with.
I love it. That's really, I think, impactful for somebody to be able to that just kind of turn their head around and look at it a different way.
Yes. I came upon it. I was reading, I think, something by another coach, and I saw, oh, wait a minute, this woman isn't a lawyer. This is a legal analysis. Now we're going to do a legal analysis. And my clients love it when we do it in class or in my one-on-one coaching. They love, playing the advocate. It's fun.
Well, you mentioned that you became the coach that you wished you had when you were considering leaving the legal profession. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yes. golly, I felt so alone. There weren't, I didn't even know of any career coaches. There were executive coaches. But especially in Pittsburgh, PA, I never even heard of any executive coaches. Maybe they were at the top echelons of the corporations, but they certainly weren't in the legal field, especially. So I had to figure it out myself. I had a therapist and she was kind of helpful. I guess she was helpful in at least telling me that I wasn't absolutely crazy looking at this, especially at this option, right? So she was helpful that way. But I really wish I had had some kind of process to walk through. I just did a lot of journaling, basically. I wished, a process that would ask, prompt me with the right questions. I wish I had somebody to help me brainstorm what the different possibilities were. I wish I had someone to help me with the doubts and the fears, and to keep me committed. I think what kept me committed was my vision was so strong for what I wanted: to bring my son to school in the morning, to have breakfast with him, to pick him up and have after school snacks and be there for practice, to live those moments that I had missed for a number of years. That vision is what just drove me. A lot of people don't have that strong a vision. And so that's where I feel I can be very helpful as a coach, because I can help them strengthen the vision. Because the truth of the matter is, Nan, and you're an entrepreneur. If you want to make something happen, you have to get up every morning with that clear vision in your mind, and you have to see it, and then you have to feel it. Feel what it's going to be like to achieve that vision. And that energizes you and motivates you to keep you moving forward. And I can tell you right now, on a Sunday, the last thing I wanted to do was to pack my little bags and get in a car and go and talk to ladies about getting cute. But I did it. And you know what? Once I was there, it was so much fun. It was so much fun. And the beautiful thing about this business, it wasn't just about helping women, feel better, although that was nice. It was empowering women, telling them, you know what, I'm a lawyer. I'm leaving the law to do this. Maybe you should consider this. And I was able to build a wonderful team pretty quickly because of that. And that empowering of women was so fabulous, because that's something I had missed as a lawyer. It wasn't, back then, there weren't many women lawyers. We were maybe 20% of the profession. So there wasn't that mentoring that, I'm happy to see exists now. So now.
Well, how do you help professional and business women redefine that success for themselves? Can you think of an example, maybe?
I was thinking of so many great examples, just going back through a lot of my clients. They're such great people. The first thing I do is I invite people to get clear, women to get clear. What really matters to you? What do you value in your life? What's non-negotiable for you for living your life? And so that defines life values. Then we look at what she's passionate about. What causes have really just tugged at her heart all her life, whether she got involved with them or not. Sometimes hobbies and interests can play in there. I invite her to look at times in either volunteer work, side projects, or in regular jobs where she felt totally passionate, engaged, and in flow. And we put all that together, and I invite her to create a vision of a ideal life, successful life, and the type of work scenario that allows her to live that life, that helps her live that life. Great story, one of my favorite clients, I'm going to call her Rosa. She actually had a background in one of the big health organizations here in the Bay Area. And she had taken a leave of absence, a maternity leave. She did not want to go back to her old job. Her old job involved a lot of community relations, a lot of PR work, a lot of interfacing with corporations and community leaders and politicians. So she was very networked and very good at what she did. So we did the process, right? She got clear about what really is important to her. And it turns out she's always had a passion for bringing healthcare to underserved communities in our country and here in the Bay Area. And then we did some brainstorming around some of that. And one of the things that come out, because I invite people to just be totally creative in a brainstorm. And like this, she said, I know this is a dream. I probably shouldn't even put this here. CEO of a nonprofit that really brings healthcare to the community. So I said, just put it there. Just let it sit, let it stay there. And then I encouraged her to take some baby steps and start exploring, not necessarily CEO positions, but how about positions in nonprofits that were working on community healthcare? One baby step at a time. So she started doing that. She found an organization that had a mission that really spoke to her heart, started volunteering, and they, of course, as so many organizations do, they were struggling for money. They needed to have a grant proposal written. And she raised her hand to do it. And I remember her coming into the class with me saying, you're not going to believe what I did. I'm going to write a grant proposal. And I've never done this. I said, all right, take a few deep breaths. How can you learn how to do it? Well, she took a course and learned, the rudiments of grant writing. And she's networked. She was able to reach out to people, started writing. Lo and behold, they won the grant. And she was ecstatic. She said, oh my God, I'm pretty good at this. Well, this is the most amazing thing. I get a call now, 2 months later. She's in one of my follow-up programs. She said, I couldn't wait for the class. The board just offered me the position to take over from the retiring CEO. And she was, oh my God, I don't think I could. And I said, all right, Rosa, let's go back. And I reminded her of all she had accomplished in the past, what her passions were, all the time she had shown up as a leader. Even if that wasn't her title, she consistently had shown up as a leader. That was part of her essence of who she was. And so she's still running the organization, and she has taken it to the next level in terms of serving the community and outreach. So that's one of my most favorite stories about this beautiful, beautiful woman.
That is fantastic to see that growth that she experienced and the breaking out of the confines that she had in her mind. That was great.
Yeah.
In your experience, what are some of the common barriers that maybe keep women from thriving in their professional and personal lives, and how can they break through them?
I think, Nan, one of the biggest I see for reinvention clients and then for regular coaching clients is they're murky. They don't have any clarity. They're very foggy about what their priorities are, what's really important to them. And I find that for women, especially when they're not clear about what their priorities are, they try to please everybody. So they wind up struggling and juggling, trying to keep a whole lot of balls in the air, burning themselves out, feeling guilty all the time. I had one client, she was a doctor. She said, I feel guilty when I'm at work that I'm not with my 2 boys. And then when I'm homeschooling my 2 boys, I feel guilty that I'm not working. So, this struggle and juggle, which is exhausting. So that is one of the big barriers. What I say is, get clear. As I said to this young doctor, let's get clear. What are your values? What matters most to you? What's non-negotiable for you in living your life? And then reimagining what her work would look like and what her life might look like if she started living those priorities. And that's another success story. She was able to realign her priorities once she got clear, and her practice made more money that year than she had in prior years. So it goes to show when we're clear and know where we're going, we're aligned with what's important, things will fall into place. Another big thing, though, is lack of confidence that holds women back. Because sometimes in order to do that realignment of priorities, you have to ask. And that might mean advocating for yourself at work. It might mean asking for a part-time situation, a hybrid work situation. It might mean trying a new role. Or in this context of a reinvention, it might mean approaching people and asking them for help, asking them for their insights on a particular profession or role or career path. And to build confidence, I always give this exercise in all of my workshops. It's so powerful. And I often tell my clients, even before they start working with me, to do it. And this is it, Nan. Look back over the last 10 years of your life. Make a list of every accomplishment, both personal and professional. I'm talking about courses completed, certifications completed, community programs completed, new skills learned, awards given, and of course, the accomplishments at work, the projects completed, the new clients, the sales goals achieved, whatever those metrics are. And most people, everyone, as a matter of fact, whom I challenged to do this exercise will come back to me with tears in their eyes. I had no idea I had done so much. And why is that? Because our brains have a bias for the negative. They're like Velcro for the negative, right? They'll cling to the negative experiences. Teflon, oh, that was good. We dismiss our accomplishment and we move on. We move forward. And that brings it all back to them. So,
I love it.
Yeah, that's a powerful mini exercise that I love to do. Is shoot. I mean, I did this myself a number of years ago. I did it when I was reinventing myself from the Mary Kay world into the coaching world. I had heard about it in my coach training. I thought, oh, this is good exercise, to remind myself of what I had done.
Can you share some tips for anyone listening who's contemplating a major career shift or reinvention?
Sure. Think of the 4 C's. I always like to teach there's 4 C's that are kind of the key ingredients to any reinvention. First, not surprisingly, is clarity, getting clear about who you are, what your strengths are, what you want in terms of life and work, and where you want to go, where you want to be in 5 to 10 years. Next, get curious. Curiosity. Too many times people will just take the next adjacent possible thing, a possibility out there, and it's what they most likely to do. It's what their background suits them for. So they do that. Like, for me, leaving the law, I would have been moving to a big nonprofit, or sometimes leading them, something like that. But go outside the comfort zone and get into the real creative space. And when I say get curious, look for clues from your past life. Look at those times when you really felt engaged and passionate, and consider those as well. Look at the backstage idea. What's that something you've always dreamed about, but you've always put it aside? Oh, I can never write that book. I can never start that business. I can never become CEO of an organization, right? Bring the backstage idea and start exploring, asking questions, test driving with a side hustle or volunteering. I'm talking to people, find out about their career paths. This isn't a job interview, it's an information interview. So important. You know, so many times, Nan, we have these assumptions about something, and it's just not true. It's really interesting. Finally, let's see, what was it? Curiosity, confidence. Build your confidence, because you've got to ask people to talk to you. Maybe you asked for an invitation to be invited into for an interview, to be referred in for an interview. All those things. So build your confidence, and finally, commitment. Stay committed to the vision, to the dream. I tell people that reinvention takes a minimum of 6 months, because it's not a job search, it's a reinvention. Minimum 6 months, often to 18 months, and sometimes if you need more training, 2 years. So people have to stay really committed, and the only way to stay committed is by revisiting their vision every single day.
What advice do you have for women who feel stuck in their current careers and they're really afraid to take that leap toward a more meaningful path?
I'll tell you what I tell them. And often when people do their complimentary 20-minute phone call with me, that will come up, right? They're in this awful rut. Say, I'll ask them to project forward 5 years from now and imagine themselves in the same place where they are, in that same rut. How will they be feeling about themselves? What regrets will they have? What will they be shoulding themselves about? And then I have them take a deep breath and project 5 years and imagine they left. They popped out of the rut and they had explored some new possibilities and stepped into some new possibilities. How do they see themselves then? They're congratulating themselves. I've grown, their personal growth, how they've grown, how their confidence has been enhanced, how their life has been enhanced. And in some cases, and I've had clients literally write this to me in emails, living the life they only dreamed of. And that's a quotation from another client who wrote an email. So that's what I suggest. And then I tell them that what's scarier to you, to be in this rut 5 years from now, or to step out of your comfort zone and start moving forward to explore some new possibilities and take some action? And usually it's, the pain of staying in the rut is greater than the pain stepping outside of the comfort zone and confronting their fears.
That's so true. How could people contact you if they want to talk to you and get that 20 minutes? And what can you provide to them? What do you tell them?
Well, they can email me at ann@daringreinventors.com.
Daring, D-A-R-I-N-G, right?
Yes, all one word, Daring Reinventors. And set up a 20, which often winds up to be 30-minute discovery call. And we talk about where they are, where they'd like to go, what they see as the obstacles in their way. And then if they're interested, I share with them about what my process looks like, how it works, and how they can work with me, either in a class, one of my reinvention classes, or one-on-one. And then I also offer I'm starting up again now in September, a monthly presentation, Discover Your Path. It's absolutely free. And it's 1 hour that basically goes over the key steps in discovering your next path. And in that, I elaborate a lot more on those 4 C's: clarity, curiosity, confidence, and commitment. And I give people techniques and suggestions for taking their first step forward. And if they want to register for that, they can go to my website, www.daringreinventors.com.
Well, Anne, thanks so much. This has been so enlightening and so motivational, I think, for so many women that are listening, going, maybe I could, maybe I really could. So thank you so much for giving of your time.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you, Nan.